With flames flickering and cutlery clattering, all was well at Bizmati Keep. The buzz of conversation was building steadily, as food and warmth brought them out of their winter sleep faster than any time in recent memory. A few who had finished their meals early had taken to their feet. Some looked at decorations, others just wanted to talk and mingle. It felt like only yesterday they had been talking last, but they all knew it had been weeks at least, if not a month or more. The liberal servings of ale and other alcohols helped loosen up the conversation as well, naturally, and the human shenanigans provided ample conversation points, as usual. Others still had retired to get changed into something more proper than whatever they had been able to manage upon waking up. After finishing her own lavish starter, Sapphire had gone to join them. Her clothes were cold and damp to put on, which had sucked severely, but a bit of time in front of a roaring fire quickly had them steaming. Soon she felt truly warm. Maybe not dry yet, but that would come soon. Just as she was starting to consider going for a walk to see if Tom had done anything else strange around the keep, the main course was served. Jackie stood by the deer to carve everyone a healthy portion, while Adita tried to inspect the rotating spit for divine secrets of human engineering. As she stood in line waiting patiently for her portion of meat, she had an excellent view of the whole hall. She didn't want to assume, but as she watched, quietly checking names off her mental list, she was searching for people who looked rather glum, despite the festivities. Esmeralda was sitting with her dear hubby on her lap, and children stacked atop him, as they all treasured the fact that all had made it through the biting winter storm. The Nook and Apuma were talking, and the Lawmaster did have a rather worried look on his face for whatever reason, but that may very well be down to Tom's promised gift to the children. Looking down, Rachuk was sitting at his father's side and not touching his food, instead looking out over the hall. Perhaps something had happened while they were asleep, or maybe he was doing the same thing Sapphire was doing. The whole Bizmati family was present, so it wasn't that. Sav had been a little worried about their old lady, but the Nook seemed no worse off than she had been before, as she discussed with Apuma, Rachuk weighing in from time to time. Everyone else seemed to be in good spirits, smiles and laughter, if sometimes a little sedated. She couldn't remember them ever losing one, except for old Goethe. She had been ancient when she passed away, passing many of her duties to Esmeralda. Content that all was well, she turned her attention to Jackie, as her plate was loaded with some of the best cuts. "It pays to be friends with the server," she mused, giving the larger woman a wink as she walked past. Knowing her luck, the deer's arsehole might be lurking somewhere underneath, poised to ruin her appetite, but that was the price you paid. As she sat down again, taking a seat next to Fengi, she didn't have any trouble stomaching even more food. You were always so damn hungry after sleeping for so long. Rations never tasted better than the first meal after waking up. But today they had gravy and fresh meat. Unthinkable to a keep dweller, yet here they were. As they ate, Tunkai joined Fengi next to her, and the two were practically all over each other. But it made her realize someone was missing right now. Craning her neck, she looked around, but still didn't find any trace of Maiko. "Where has that bugger gone off to? He wasn't in the room just now. I even checked. It was the one person they could reasonably be missing, without anyone walking around with a 1,000-yard stare, save Paulin perhaps. And for a moment, Saf did feel a little bad. She was quite sure the corporal had slept next to her, and he certainly hadn't been there when she woke up. "Have any of you two seen Maiko?" she finally tried, looking to Fengi and Unkai. The pair of them thought for a moment, before glancing to each other, then shook their heads. "Didn't he sleep in your room?" Fengi questioned in return, Sapphire reluctantly giving a nod. "He did, but I don't think he was there when I woke up." She tried to rack her brain for the truth. It was all quite foggy right after she had woken up, but she felt like she should remember that. It actually made her feel a little bad that she couldn't even remember if she had even checked. That was kind of the minimum you should do after waking up from a winter slumber. "Me you're looking for?" the all-too-familiar voice questioned. Sapphire turning around to see the corporal standing there with a shit-eating grin and a plate of food. Fengi and Unkai both looked at the man in mild shock, as if they hadn't even realized he was right there. "Where have you been?" Sapphire questioned, perhaps a little harshly. There was no need for magic, but she was happy to see him. "Oh, just warming up a little, you know. Long cold winter." He dismissed her as he went to sit down beside Sapphire, Unkai and Fengi moving over a touch to make room. Not a bad wake-up party, though. "Yeah, been here a while, though. Weren't you up before me?" Sapphire questioned, hoping he indeed had been. Otherwise it really would make her look quite bad. She tried sounding a bit suspicious instead. It wouldn't have been the first time he had been snooping around. Sometimes they had even asked him to. Like in his work with trying to smooth over a drill. "Oh no, I was sleeping like a princess. I did wonder where you were. I was hoping to wake up with cuddles and all." He tried with a big smile on. Sapphire tried her darndest to gauge if there was any hurt in his expression, but damn if he wasn't good at putting on a strong face if there was. She settled that all was probably well in the end, and shook her head, a gentle smile spreading across her face. "Maybe another time. We shouldn't jostle those who are still frozen, after all. Something might snap off." "Oh, that would be a disaster. I need all my fingers for... Well, I suppose I could miss a few, actually," the corporal conceded, after a moment's mock contemplation. "As long as I can hold a sword and a shield, I believe I will get by." "I guess that is one advantage of a crossbow. Even with a few fingers missing, it works just the same." "Better, dear Sapphire. It works better," he tried with confidence. The two huntresses looked at each other, then just started snickering. "Sure thing, Bio, for sure, for sure." "Well, if I was big and strong enough to pull a warbow, then how would I sneak out at night? Not to mention fit on that puny little bed of yours." "All the better for keeping an eye on you. Can't have you sneaking around the place now, can we?" Sapphire replied, as their little bout of snickering came to an end. "I would never. I'm not Kakashi," Micah replied in good humour. The soldier could always be relied upon to give as good as he got. "He's got you there," Fengi said, before turning back to her half-finished plate. "Besides, he spent most of his time spying on a drill." "Not spying, just talking. Shame she is such a poor personality, though. I could use some good company once in a while," the corporal replied, quite needingly, leaning just a touch on Sapphire. "Well, you are shit out of luck here," she chuckled, shaking her head a bit. "Tonight is supposedly time for a movie. I will be sure to hold you if it is frightening like last time." "Ha! Yes, please. I am shivering in my britches at the thought of the evil moving pictures. I will have to sit on your lap to feel safe." "Don't get too cocky now." "No, I want to see that. It's a kids' movie, apparently," Fengi interjected, possibly having overheard something about the Knights to Light earlier. "I want to see a soldier cower while the kids stare in amazement." "Oh, well, I was always quite good at acting. I'll try, I promise," Micah replied sarcastically, as Sapphire rolled her eyes. "Any embarrassments will be repaid tenfold," Sapphire assured, fully intending to keep that promise. "But I suppose it is understandable if Kiran turns out to be the braver one. If you get scared before Holdy, though, we are not getting that new bigger bed. I promise you that." "Ah, you said we," Micah noted, with a shit-eating grin on, as a shriek rang out inside the hall, ears and hairs perking up all around. "It's the keep!" a child's voice exclaimed with evident excitement. It sounded like Holdy to Sapphire's ears. Heads all around turned to look at the tree in the centre of the room, where Tom was now sitting on the floor with the gaggle of kids, as well as Ray. "Oh, they got their gift now. How nice," Micah commented, arching his neck to get a better look around the taller Sapphire. "And it's made from more thingies." "Those are bricks," Tom explained, as he helped the children unwrap their latest thing to clean up after playing in the library. Saph was sure Esmeralda would be delighted. Look, it's Jerix." "He looks a bit small for Jerix." Yes, but he's blue." "He's made fucking toys as well? Food, decorations, translating a movie? Hang on. Has he been doing anything he was supposed to at all? I swear, if we're even further behind schedule thanks to children's toys, there will be... Oh, who cares? Even the Inquisition got them toys, I guess. What a world we live in." Tom smiled warmly as the children quickly set about restacking the bricks. The keep soon disassembled to be rebuilt into God knew what. Just like it was supposed to. He stood up, content that they would be busy for quite some time, meaning he could get a plate of the main course before he had to set up the night's movie. "Tom, a moment of your time, please." Dakota's voice beckoned from behind him. His shoulders sagged for a moment. Perhaps he would end up eating during the movie after all. No matter. Turning around, he raised an expectant eyebrow, waiting on her to elaborate just what she needed. "Our lord and lady would quite like a word, if it would be possible," she explained, polite as ever. He had his suspicions as to what they might want to talk about, and this likely wasn't the place. He did also have more to share with them already, after all, as did Rachuk. "Not like it matters to Paulin if we are here or in a dark storeroom. She'll hear anyway," he sighed to himself, before nodding. "Of course, I hope the food is okay." "For a first meal of the day, it is truly special," Dakota reassured, turning with the expectation he would follow. Tom did, of course, while he tried to guess if she had even tasted the food yet. Work and duty always came first with her, just like Rachuk. With enough wine later in the evening, perhaps that could change, at least temporarily. It was Christmas, after all. She led him to the high table where Nanook and Apuma were at least partaking in the meal, chatting idly. Perhaps it wasn't actually anything serious at all they wanted. Maybe they just wanted to say thank you for the nice feast. One could hope, at least. Tom took up a chair and sat down opposite the lord and lady, leaning a little on the table, as Dakota took her seat beside Nanook. Rachuk too was paying attention, though he did not seem hurried to open up the conversation. "So, we needed to talk about something?" Tom questioned, looking to Nanook, who put down the two-pronged fork and patted her muzzle dry, nodding. "Yes, Tom. Firstly, I must congratulate you. The keep still stands. Rachuk doesn't seem to have gone mad, and we have a fine feast to boot. You have done quite well." "Why, thank you. It wasn't easy, I can promise you that," Tom chuckled in reply. "Even with a little aid?" "Just a little bit," Tom relented. "Got a fine pair of snowshoes made, for going around the place." "Yes, indeed. Where are they now?" "Oh, I passed them on to the dear old lady at Deriva. I think she needs them more." "I see. Seems strange they couldn't stay here until after you finished with the fine feast. Would they not be good for the rest of the dark winter?" "Oh, I'm sure they would. Sadly, they can't bear the weight of a whole crowd, and certain individuals in it." The Nook narrowed her eyes at him a little, before nodding slowly. "I see. Perhaps they shall be returned at a more quiet time. One never knows when the snow falls." "I'm sure they will hand them back when we need them again, I think." Tom didn't want to promise too much. It wasn't like he had the young white dragon on a hotline, after all. The Nook seemed to take note of his hesitance, as she sighed softly. "Very well. Speaking of darker times, spring is coming." "I thought you guys were looking forward to spring like it's the second coming." "I suppose that is a way to put it. The first coming being when we rise from slumber in winter." Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Anywho, spring bad. Why?" The Nook stared at him for a moment, before electing that wasn't worth questioning, and looked to Apuma. "Dark dreams, Tom. Some of us have had dark dreams of what's to come. It's normally a happy time. Tragedies are for winter and fall, not the joyful time of spring. Yet many of us have dreamt of ill tidings." The old man spoke. He certainly seemed convinced enough that something wasn't going to go well, even if that seemed a little off to Tom. "What now? Not before Darkling showed up on your doorstep? Not when the Inquisition came? Hell, not even a drill? She was a calamity and a half." "Some of us, perhaps. But truth be told, Tom, we have not suffered greatly in the past year," the Nook added with a solemn nod. "Nook, you are never flying again. Not by yourself, at least. And can't you remember what happened to Dakota?" The gilded Huntress averted her gaze as the Nook simply nodded. "Yes, Tom, I do remember, and I am sure some warnings were not heeded. It may be difficult to tell the difference between visions of the future and pains from one's past. As she finished that remark, the old lady looked at Dakota, who showed no interest in turning her gaze back towards the conversation. I am sure Fengi will have many nightmares of black dragons, wishing her dead regardless of any possible future encounters. Right. But now what we got is something nasty and new heading our way? We, don't know, Apuma admitted, a little sheepishly. Some of us have simply had quite dark dreams as we slumbered. 2 in particular. I'm guessing you two? No, Tom. The Nook looked positively puzzled that he didn't somehow magically know, even going so far as to exchange a glance with Apuma. Shiva and Jackalope, Tom. The last 2 furlongs have not slept well at all. She didn't tell you? The Nook looked downright distrustful that he wasn't lying right now, but dutifully Tom shook his head. No, she didn't. I had no idea. I guess maybe she wanted to wait till later? We have been quite busy. Tom was quite surprised as well by the revelation. It wasn't the first time she had hidden things from him for his sake, but he had hoped they were past that point. Perhaps. The Nook clearly wasn't convinced, but apparently she was willing to let it go for now. I trust you know what that may mean, yes? I think I can put the puzzle together, yeah. They know the pain of losing one's home. We'd best be ready. Point taken, ma'am. Speaking of dreams, did Rachuk tell you yet? Tom questioned, throwing a glance at the captain. Rachuk was the only one who knew what Tom had seen in his own visions thus far, but spilling the beans would be tricky, with Paulin now awake. Only that you have learned something important. Is that right? The lady questioned back, eyerish raised as she flicked her snout over Tom's shoulder. Yeah, we're being listened to, I know. He acknowledged her with a nod. Yes, I think I did. I have grown to know a great deal more about why Jelena is so eager to help us. So, all good news, Tom replied, while slowly shaking his head. Hopefully that got the point across that they should certainly be wary. Tom had no idea what actually ended up happening in the far north, but it couldn't be good. And most outcomes would have Jelena branded as a heretic, if it came to light that he was certain of. We could use more good news. Her voice spoke one thing, her rise and demeanour quite another. She understood. It wasn't good news at all. We can chat more about that later, but one request. What is it? She asked, almost out of hand. Keep it a secret until tomorrow. Let them have fun. There's still a fair bit of winter left, Tom asked, hoping she didn't want them dropping everything right this second to start building barricades like Rachuk had lightly counselled. Yes, Jackie is of a similar mind, she said with a nod. Tom sighed in relief. We can spare the day. No one strikes in winter, and for good reason. But with the thaw we must be ready, along with whatever machinations you have planned, dear human. We'll see to a warm welcome, don't you worry, ma'am. Hellfire will be in the dictionary when we're done with them, whoever they are. Good to hear. Now go. I must enjoy the more amenable welcome you have arranged. She finished, almost jovially, while waving him off. Tom could hear Rachuk's sigh from here, but he sure didn't want to help the captain argue right now. He was hungry, and he had some questions for the one carving the deer tonight. Well, that has certainly been something. Everyone except the children had learned by now to not ask too many questions, and just enjoy the show. But by the gods, if Sapphire didn't have some things she wouldn't mind asking about during that particular showing. It of course helped a lot that they could actually read what the people were saying. Or at least, Tom's best guesses as a translation. She felt like there was definitely a few mistakes in there still, but it got the point across for the most part. There had been wide consensuses amongst them all, that is to say the Huntresses, that Astrid would indeed make a fine Huntress, as most of the men except for Hiccup looked like they should be permanently grounded, out of fear of sprained wings. It was an interesting take on a story, though. This idea that the village was in fact not in the wrong, but nor were they without fault, and much the same was true for the dragons, of course. Even if there had been a great deal of grumbling about just how daft most of the dragons seemingly were. Then again, as the twins demonstrated, the humans were only marginally better off. If only Tigran looked as cute as Toothless, so many of his problems would just go away, Fengi had opined, once Tom had turned off the projector and people started clearing away the benches and chairs once more. The gaggle of kids swarmed the human with questions and outcries of what was good or bad, their favourite dragon, if those really existed, why Stoic was so mean to poor Hiccup, and many more that got drowned out by the clamouring. "I think people will start asking questions when he spits lightning like a blue," Sapphire replied, as she and Maiko lifted a bench to carry it back to the Huntress table. "It wasn't quite like Jarex's, but I suppose it worked about the same." "I still don't understand how someone who's never seen a dragon comes up with something like that. I couldn't imagine what it might look like when humans decided bows weren't good enough," Jackie added. She had stayed with the Huntresses for the showing, leaving Tom to his child-caring fate, though he did have Esmeralda to help keep them under control. "Fire is fire. One only need imagine it being flung at someone, I suppose," Sapphire concluded with a shrug. "Not like they don't know how to use that stuff as a weapon." "They could use a green bean as a weapon if they tried hard enough," Jackie snickered. "All fear the mighty sprout." "They got it pretty incredibly wrong with a few of them. That Grunkle thing is never ever going to fly. No way," Fengi said, as they started putting things back in order at their table. "True that, and that big one at the end was quite something, wasn't it? Hideous as all hell. Even I have better morning breath too," Jackie joked, as she watched Tom struggling to placate the horde with evident bemusement. "And couldn't even feed himself. It needed a whole city?" Fengi tried, not quite sure what to even call the island of dragons at the end. "I would say coven," Maiko added, taking a seat back at the table, setting down an empty mug of ale as a statement, one which they ignored for now. They had more interesting things to discuss. "Yeah, a whole coven of dragons just to feed it. And for what? I mean, other than being a mean motherfucker, what did it do?" Sapphire questioned. "Seemed quite useless to me, and it even lost in the end, the one thing it was good for." "That was probably about it, to be honest. Big meanie exacting taxes." Fengi chuckled, as she too took a seat, the rest of them following one by one. The night was far from over, after all, and they had all slept in quite a lot leading up to it. "It would be quite good at keeping their island safe most of the time," Maiko added with a shrug, starting to play with his empty mug as he waited for someone to decide he was onto something. "Honorary member of the Royal Guard, then," Sapphire joked, giving Maiko a poke to the shoulder as she sat down next to him. "Hey, we do stuff too, like parades and stuff," Maiko objected sarcastically. Sapphire knew full well he was far indeed from the stuffy type who could not take a joke. If anything, he likely agreed at least a little that much of the guard was as much for show as it was useful. Then again, the same could be said of a polished breastplate. You still polished it, rather than just covering it with wax. "But it needed to break the mountain just to get out. It hadn't left the place in forever, probably," Fengi said. "Unless there was another way out." "Got too fat to leave." "I have an aunt with a similar problem," Unkai added jokingly, as he too found his seat again. "Don't you speak poorly of Auntie Tarragon? She was very kind when you visited. You said so yourself." "She does have an awful lot of money." "Hard to get fat without it," Jackie added with a sagely nod, Unkai sticking out his tongue at her in reply, before mock hiding behind Fengi. Jackie did a quick snarl trying to sound angry, before the mask broke and she started sniggering at Fengi, who looked back at her man with a confused expression. "Don't you hide back there. You're the guard, remember? It's your job to deal with threats that are close to home, not mine." "Well, she is on the other side of the table. That counts as bow range." Unkai defended himself, receiving a sarcastic shake of the head in reply. "Oh no, I'm afraid she is much too fast. She will be here before Maiko gets his crossbow wound." "Hey, I don't use a windlass," the corporal objected in good humour, "but it can take a loading fork if you're feeling a bit lazy." "You should ask Tom to come up with something to help you with that. The first crossbow man in the world who can match half the pace of a good huntress, Sapphire snickered. Who knows? Maybe you could even get up to a bolt per second. You know what? I just might, Micah replied with sarcastic defiance. Or maybe I will ask this Hiccup fellow. Ooh, we should totally start calling Tom Hiccup, Fengi declared, soon getting joined by nods from all around the table. Hiccup cuts you loose if he captures you in the forest. Tom makes plans for dinner, Jackie objected, seemingly the only one not quite on board with the idea. You mean make plans for someone else to put together a nice dinner? Gal, you just spent half a day enjoying food he whipped up. I didn't have time to help much. I suppose that is fair, yes, Sapphire relented. It had been a very impressive display, and she still felt completely stuffed. I still don't understand how he had time for it all. How long have we been sleeping? Well, he might have had a little help, Micah added with a chuckle. A couple of heads turned to look at the corporal, who was suddenly looking unsure. What I meant to say is, what an industrious little human we have. Spit it out, soldier, Saf demanded, as she crossed her arms. Whatever he had worked out, she wanted to know. Well, there are claw marks on the floors, big ones, but not Jarek's big, he carried on, pointing to the centre of the grand hall. Oh, and whatever it was sheds white scales. He produced a fairly small scale and showed it to Sapphire. Dragon scale? Damaged too. Young white dragon out and about. The corporal continued to keep the scale for now. Then again, out here you'd expect some bumps and scrapes. You don't think they had a fight, did you? Fengi questioned, a touch of worry in her voice. No way. The place would be trashed. I think it just fell off, but we've had guests, the corporal confirmed. The true question is, where are they now? Not a word to anyone. They haven't said for a reason, Esmeralda interrupted, throwing a glance towards the high table that was being put back in its place after the movie showing. Ruchuk would know already. Tom would too. Not like we ain't on the same team after all, Jackie protested. Besides, I'm sure they already told the Nook. It would explain the foul mood, Sapphire added reluctantly. I wonder why they didn't stick around longer.